Hey, everybody. Welcome to Week 10. Welcome to the Line Movement Pre-Kickoff Show. I'm Dieter Kurtenbach, joined by Joe Holka and Peter Overzet, and we're going to break down everything you need to know when it comes to betting and daily fantasy for Week 10 and this garbage early slate that we have going on. Let's just call it like it is. Peter Overzet, baby, you're doing something. I'm going to leave you to it. So, Joe Holka, how you feeling? Are you feeling better, buddy?
I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Good.
Finally, I think over the sickness, no more Rona symptoms for me, which is good. And overall, just last week was a bit of a grind. So appreciate you guys stepping up for some, lighter shows. I know Peter and Lamarca did the Thursday night show together without me. And then obviously you guys did your thing with James filling in on this show. So appreciate you guys. Happy to be back.
Hey, man, you were still plugging along. Credit to you, man. I would have taken the week, but you're like, no, I got to get these streams in, and stream you did. Let's talk to Peter Overzet, the heartthrob of daily fantasy. How you doing, buddy?
Get the hell out of here.
I love doing it.
I was doing fine until you triggered me with that. This week is it's a weird one. It went from all this value allowing you to play kind of whoever you want to then the slate getting condensed back again with the weather, with Chase Edmonds unlikely to get the backfield to himself. So I've had a hard time building, and I'm excited to talk it through and get a clear head here with 2 hours before lock.
All right, so let's talk about this first game, which kind of taps into a lot of the things you were just mentioning. It's a very murky, messy game, and it's the Houston Texans at the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are 4.5-point favorites. The total on this one is 45.5, which is a number that's obviously dropped down a little bit, and that is likely due to weather. Joe, what are we seeing right now as it pertains to Cleveland, and what does it mean for DFS?
Yeah, obviously we're focused on like 15 mile per hour plus winds. Looks like this one's going to be sustained at over 25 with some gusts up to 50. So for me, this is a situation like I talked about this on my stream earlier today. It's just like wind doesn't just affect the passing game. It affects the efficiency of these offenses overall. So like if we're just trying to find games and stacks where there's a potential to shoot out, this is a situation where I'm just completely avoiding it from a stacking perspective. If you want to grab a piece of this game, maybe you want to play Nick Chubb or something like that. Maybe you want to grab some Duke Johnson. Maybe I understand that. If there's going to be more, like the argument in favor is, like you can't pass, you're just going to run more. Okay, that probably means there's going to be less plays also because you're going to be running the ball so much, and there's going to be less touchdown opportunity across the board for these offenses. So in these situations, the contrarian mindset in me wants to like find ways to get cute here, but the data will tell you that these games like typically are big messes.
Peter, you're Mr. Game Script. I mean, is Joe right? Or are there going to be fewer possessions, fewer plays in this game?
Yeah, I think we definitely trust the total dropping, and we have a very similar data point in how this went 2 weeks ago with a similarly windy game versus the Raiders, where they had Daniel Carlson's kicks, going 30 feet to the left. So I don't think we see too many field goals attempted. I don't think we see too many deep balls attempted. Like I'm always on the Will Fuller train. I feel like he's always undervalued, has an insane ceiling, and I'm spooked off of him to the point where I'm even pulling him out of some of my season-long lineups when I have really good other options. I think the interesting thing here is Duke Johnson. Personally, I'm not on it. Like David Johnson has been the same price all season, and people weren't falling over themselves to play David Johnson here. And when you look at like the ceiling projections of other guys around him, your DeAndre Swifts, your Antonio Gibsons, your Gio Bernard, even like it's not that different. I think he's a solid play. I don't think he's a smash play. And then you factor in this game not speeding up because of the weather. And to me, I'm close to a full fade on Duke Johnson.
All right. So what do we feel about the betting aspect of this game? If we're not going to be doing too much DFS stuff, how do we feel about 4.5 points for the Browns? Too rich for anybody's blood?
I never know what to do in these games because there's so much volatility that's brought in by this type of weather. Like, I think I probably would be on the Browns side because their running game is so much stronger from a real football perspective. Nick Chubb back, that probably helps. Hunt fall back into his more of a pass catching role anyway. So yeah, I think that makes some sense. These games are tough to handicap. We've obviously seen some huge line movement overall in favor of just this game being lower scoring. But as far as picking a side, I don't have a clear lean. Do you, Pete?
I think I probably lean Cleveland with the home team here. They're also getting Nick Chubb back, and I don't know if I have the stomach for him in DFS, even though I'm the one constantly preaching, play these guys coming off an injury. No one wants to play them. And the coaches said, how much work is Chubb going to get? Is he going to be limited? They said as much as he can until he gets tired. So I have no idea what his conditioning is right now, if that's what they're referencing with getting tired. But man, if this is a game where they're just running the ball a ton because the weather doesn't allow them to throw, I mean, Nick Chubb, he's a lotto tournament kind of play, I think, for sure.
The he's just going to go until he gets tired mantra is the Joe Holka way he lives life, man.
He does just as many shows as me. Let's make that very clear. Pete probably does more shows than me, for the record. So, but shout out to Pete, by the way, going over 2K subs on YouTube. So if anyone's watching this and hasn't subbed to Pete, definitely check out the link in the title.
Yeah,
How are you guys not subbed?
We did a show with Holka and Leone on Friday. You can check that out. And I should also mention, we're going to go live early for Tilt Space this week on the Line Movement channel. Because we have all of these 4 p.m. games this week, we're hoping we're not buried when we go live. So we're going to go live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern instead of 6:30, and we'll have a full sweat of 6 games at once. Should be fun.
Get in the sauna, baby. Full sweat. Eagles, Giants. Eagles are 4.5-point favorites at the Meadowlands, 44.5-point total. This game doesn't have any significant weather considerations, but it's November in New Jersey. It's not like it's nice outside. So we got that going for us. It's a little bit better, except you have to, do something with the Eagles and the Giants. Where do you sit on this one? Let's go with you, Pete.
Yeah, this game, I do like Philadelphia here, even though they're on the road. They're getting a lot healthier. They have Miles Sanders back. They have Dallas Goedert back. They have Alshon Jeffrey back. I think there's a lot of explosive playmakers here, and I'm excited to see what this offense can do with all of these weapons. And I didn't even mention Jalen Reagor, too, their rookie who had been out. So, I mean, this team is almost completely different than what we've seen offensively in the past few weeks. And I think we could see a lot of scoring here. And I like the Eagles, honestly, here, even as a road favorite.
Holka, do you trust Carson Wentz? I mean, ultimately, it's nice that there's all these players coming back, but someone's got to throw him the damn ball. And Carson Wentz ain't exactly endearing themselves to the fine folks in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I talked about this with Matt Harmon earlier this week, and he was just like, can Carson Wentz just be normal? Can he just please be you have the weapons. There's no excuses anymore. Now he's got his offensive line back. So yeah, I mean, I have some concerns. This should be a great spot on paper for him to kind of get back on track. From a DFS perspective, Dallas Goedert, probably the most highly owned player in this game, most likely. I have some concerns with these type of offenses when they get all of these guys back. It was so condensed in terms of the target tree overall for so long, and now it's really not. We have Goddard there. Obviously, we still have Jalen Reagor. We still have Alshon Jeffrey's going to be back. Now we have all of these Fulgham, obviously. So these guys played so well before. I don't think that Alshon's just going to come in and take a role, but there's only so much spreading around you can do. And then Miles Sanders on top of that. So what are you doing? What are you doing with this situation from a stack perspective, Pete? Do you think that these guys are still reasonable? I don't even know who to pick.
Yeah, I'm doing I haven't stacked this game up by itself, but I've been playing some Miles Sanders as a one-off. I think he's a great play. I think his ownership is going to come up a smidge with the uncertainty around Kenyon Drake. I think if that had opened up, it all funnels to Chase Edmonds. Miles Sanders is left there sub 10%. I think he's going to come in around 10 to 15%. Still a good play at that price point and ownership. And then I like messing around with some of these correlations. Evan Ingram, his role is pretty nice here at 4,500. They keep expanding his usage, and I think you can play a wide receiver on the other side. Travis Fulgham's too expensive, even though he's been really solid, but I do like playing a Goddard or a Reagor as a one-off or a mini correlation on the Eagles side.
Any thoughts on the spread on this one? 4.5 for the Eagles. That feels light. But also the Giants are kind of feisty. I don't really know where to sit on this one. Does anybody have a read?
Well, I mean, the Eagles, they've won 10 of their past 11 games against the Giants, but they're only 5-6 against the spread in those games. So probably a stay away overall. I mean, the Giants have just been terrible at home. So if you had to have me pick one side just because of that alone, I'm probably on the Eagles here after getting healthy, but it's kind of gross.
Feeling any way about the total, Pete? I think maybe an overplay is in our future.
Yeah. And, again, we keep talking about who are the guys that can speed up games, with Reagor and even Darius Slayton on the other side of the ball. Those guys can take any pass to the house really quickly and speed it up. So, yeah, I like the over at 44.5. All
right, let's stick in the NFC East, at least for one of these teams. Washington football team at the Detroit Lions. The Lions are 3.5-point favorites. That speaks to the quarterback situation in Washington. 46.5-point total. We're finally getting back to like some normal ass totals out here. The weather helping us out a little bit because we were hanging out in the 50s way too often. I enjoy that kind of football. Don't get me wrong, but for a betting perspective, not so much. Way too much volatility there. Detroit 3.5-point favorites. That feels wrong. I don't feel comfortable ever having Detroit as a favorite, but talk me into it. I mean, somebody know something I don't know about this game? What are you thinking, Pete?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think either of these teams deserve to be favored too much. So that's just probably your classic 3 points for the home team lean there. I'm probably staying away from that bet. I do think, being inside in the dome today without any weather concerns, there is potential for this game to speed up. Obviously, Terry McLaurin is going to be the only guy I think that is over 10% owned in this game. He's been just such an absolute stud. He is priced up at 6,800, but man, the Lions secondary has been atrocious. So lots of paths for McLaurin to explode. And one other nice thing about McLaurin is this week you look at the top end wide receivers. There's so many good plays. Diggs, Hopkins, Lockett, Kupp, all these guys, Michael Thomas. Right. One of them is going to get squeezed. I think it's Terry McLaurin in single entry 3 max who's going to come in well under 10%, even though ownership projections have him above. So I really like Terry McLaurin here. Joe, can you talk yourself into anyone on Detroit?
That was my question for you: is who's my mini stack here? Do I play your boy DeAndre Swift, or am I playing TJ Hawkinson? It looks like he's going to play in this game. I think that's like my bigger decision is like, who is the mini stack in this game? Because I don't really want to play any of the quarterbacks.
Hawkinson's a little tricky. He was on the injury report, didn't actually practice on Thursday with the toe, came back, practice limited on Friday. The team says he's good to go. It's a little bit concerning. He also is a little expensive, but man, he's had 18 targets the past 2 weeks without Kenny Golladay in the lineup. So I still don't mind Hawkinson. I don't want to touch Marvin Jones. DeAndre Swift is such a riddle for me. I see the upside. I'm not going to give the Pete I touted DeAndre Swift stamp of approval this week. What's tripping me up is Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson combined for 6 catches last week. Like that just really hurts DeAndre Swift's upside in the passing game. There's still pass to him crushing at 5,100, but it's hard.
I mean, geez, what are we talking about here with the Lions, though? Like, they're a hot mess. Does anyone want to place a bet on this game? Does anyone want to bet the Lions to cover 3.5?
No.
3 and a hook? No one wants to do it. So what are we doing? Stacking with the Lions? Like, no one's going to bet on them. And they're getting this ridiculous line. Does the total tickle anyone's fancy at 46.5 on blitzbet.eu, or is that even too peculiar? I mean, I think that's a pretty well set line, as they all are on blitzbet.eu, of course, but like that seems just about right. Does anyone feel an over in the cards, or what? No one feeling it?
I think maybe being over on a game in a dome, maybe, but it seems somewhat priced in. So I don't know. This game's not that exciting overall.
Let's never acknowledge it again. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Carolina Panthers. Now, this one's got everything you're looking for. Tom Brady on a bounce back, Teddy Bridgewater wearing a glove, and a whole bunch of wind. Plus, we got Mike Davis intrigue. So, sorry to sound like Stefan from SNL there, but like this one's got everything. And yet a 51.5-point total. We're taking the under on this one automatically, right? Just given the wind. 5.5 points for Tampa Bay on the road. Let's talk it out. The floor is yours, Joe Holka.
I kind of like this game. I know there's some concerns, but it's nowhere near Houston, Cleveland, or Jacksonville, Green Bay, even Cincinnati, Pittsburgh in this spot. Right. So Tom Brady, Teddy Bridgewater, and either one of these guys really push the ball downfield anyway. So I think this is one that's interesting. Jordan just put in the chat that 75% of the tickets are actually on the over in this one also. So I guess the sharps might be on your side, Dieter, but it looks like a lot more people think this one could go over in terms of the amount of tickets. So that's interesting. I guess my biggest decision point in this game is what to do with the pass catchers and Tom Brady. So I'm going to put Pete on the spot here in terms of the Mike Evans versus Antonio Brown thing. A lot of sharp people talking about each of these guys, but it seems relatively split. I guess part 2 of that question, who do you think Antonio Brown having a role affects the most on this offense?
I think it does affect Mike Evans the most based on where they were using him in that game. It was primarily on the outside. He even had 99 air yards, so they were pushing the ball. So I think Godwin stays in the slot. His role is pretty secure, and Antonio Brown really eats into Mike Evans. And I'm sick to my stomach about this because I don't like Antonio Brown, but the more I think about it, I think he is the play on this team. Today, even over Godwin. I mean, at 5,800, he ran routes on 80% of his dropbacks last week. And I mean, Tom Brady loves this guy. Like, he can't help himself. He loves him more than avocado ice cream. He loves him more than all the other, white waspy things that Tom Brady loves. So I think Antonio Brown is going to see 7 to 8 targets. And if we think this game is going over like the Sharps, I mean, I like playing one of these guys because a lot of people are playing Mike Davis, rightfully so. And I think one way to get unique is like, how does Mike Davis absolutely smash? Well, this game goes nuclear. We see, go over 55, 60 combined points. If that happens, one of these wide receivers is going to have a good day.
Can Carolina's can their rush get to Tom Brady? That is the one formula for actually slowing down Tampa Bay this year. I'm torn on it, to be totally honest. I think that Matt Rule is a very good defensive coach, and schematically, the Panthers will be in position to make Tom Brady's life difficult. I kind of like this Carolina defense. Do they have the talent, though? That is the real question. And I can see this going where Tom Brady has 5 touchdowns and Antonio Brown has a big day, and that's all we're talking about on Monday. I can also see it to where, hey, man, Rule kind of figured out the game, is able to shut down Brady to a certain degree, and this game gets real sloppy real fast, and Carolina brings Tampa Bay down to their level on all things. So I'm staying away from this game from a betting perspective. I like the under still. I know that the Sharps are in on the over. I like the under still. Does anyone have a betting play on this one? Anyone want to take the 5.5 points that Carolina's getting?
I'd probably take Carolina's points here at home. And here, you guys want a narrative. The Tampa Bay was sitting on the tarmac for 5 hours yesterday. They had mechanical failure. They didn't get in till 11:15 p.m. Tom Brady, without his 16 hours of sleep, performs under expectation. It's one of those proprietary metrics I look at. So there you go. Tampa Bay, a little jet lagged, a little tired today. Carolina with the points. Lock it in.
So after I lock that in, I got a couple questions for you guys on this. First of all, Dieter, just for some perspective here, a lot of the value here, I'm using a couple different aggregate sources to figure out what people should set these lines on and try to find some value that way. So right now on the spread, the aggregation that I'm looking at has the cover probability of the Bucks at 51.7 and the cover probability of the Carolina Panthers at 48.3.
That's just a good line.
Yeah. The thing that I'm most interested here for Joe and Peter, for this team comparison, just listen to this. Average opponent offensive snaps. Tampa Bay, 67.7. Carolina, 67. Percentage run plays, 35 versus 36 for Tampa Bay and Carolina, respectively. Percentage pass plays, 65 and 64. EPA per run, negative 0.14, negative 0.08. EPA per pass, 0.15, 0.23. These teams are virtually identical, as our friend Mike Goldberg would say. How does this affect the way that you'll build stacks and approach a game script when two teams pretty much want to do the same thing throughout the whole entire day?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the pieces come together and make some sense. One of the things that I think that plays really well to someone like Teddy's skill set is that like this Tampa Bay team does blitz a lot, but they don't necessarily get completely home. So if you can get the ball out quick, we saw this with Drew Brees, and Teddy's been someone that's been able to do that as well. So someone like Curtis Samuel, Mike Davis, obviously just getting a lot of dump offs in this game is something that I think makes some sense. But yeah, if these like pieces fit together, I do think there's going to be some points scored in this game overall. In the props market, before I forget, I do want to be under on all Ronald Jones type of activities today, because I think that Fournette has kind of taken this James White type of role for Tom Brady. So I like Fournette a lot today.
Yeah,
good call.
I'm with Joe on Fournette. He had 6 targets last week, and also there's always room for more because this team dislikes Ronald Jones, and he has an impossibly short leash. So he can turn into a bell cow back real quickly. And then also to Joe's point about the dink and dunk, I mean, Robbie Anderson had his second lowest ADOT of the season last week at 8.2. He had 13 targets. He's not getting used super far down the field. So if that kind of theory checks out with getting it out quick, we could see Robbie Anderson have another big PPR day as well.
Are we going to take the over on Leonard Fournette, like 38.5 points rushing or 30 yards? That's what they're usually using, yards.
I probably don't touch that one. Yeah, I'm more excited about his pass game involvement, and I worry about them committing. He's looked bad as a rusher. So
he's not good per se, but Tom Brady does like him. So it's like the reverse Antonio Brown situation where Tom Brady likes him, but he's also good.
Yeah, his reception line is at 2.5 right now. So I'd be on the over of that, like 100%. I don't know if I'd touch the rushing ones. I'm kind of with Pete, but the receiving ones seem low.
Yeah. Let's talk weather and let's talk Jake Luton going to Green Bay, where it's snowing and windy because it's Green Bay and it's November, and the Packers are 13.5 point favorites, 47.5 point total on blitzbet.eu. Anyone want the Jags? Anybody? Who wants it? Man. Who wants that 13.5? Come on, someone's got to take it.
Fine, I'll take it. The Sharps always take the points.
Yep.
I now self-identify as a Sharp, so therefore I have to take the points.
One of the things I looked into earlier this week, though, and like that would benefit just going after the Jaguars. So Packers are actually 1-5 against the spread in their past 6 games where they've been favored by double digits. So that's happened quite a bit, obviously, but they haven't done super well when the public, I guess, is really heavy on them. But this Jaguars team's not very good. Win concerns, like, is anyone going to tell Luton that he can't just like chuck it down the field right now, or it's just going to literally get hit by a wall of wind? I could see the Packers coming up with a couple of just cheap interceptions in this one.
I mean, listen, that's the only way that the Packers get interceptions, the cheap ones, because that defense is garbage. There's a certain part of me that is wondering if 47.5 is too low, even with all the weather concerns, because Green Bay is going to get their points. Talk to me about Davante Adams. I mean, can we bet on him to continue to be Megatron again in a game like this?
Yeah, Davante Adams is tricky because he's so expensive. He's $9,000 on DraftKings. He's definitely deserved that price tag. But when you consider how many good wide receiver plays are available this week outside of wind games, outside of blowout concern games, outside of them being able to establish the run with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, I'm worried. I'm worried, and I don't think Davante Adams is going to find his way into my lineups. But when you're playing Mike Davis at 4,000, you can afford Davante Adams, and I do think he, has one of the best floor ceiling combinations out there. But again, at 9,000 to separate from those other wide receivers, he has to put up 35 again to be a difference maker relative to the rest of your lineup. So if you think Davante Adams can go for 35 in this game, knock yourself out. I think I'm betting against it.
James Robinson, just shy of 70 rushing yards is the prop, 69.5. It's going to be blustery. They're going to have to rely on the kid. Is that even too many yards, though? Joe?
I like James Robinson a bit. I think from a yardage perspective, that seems pretty fair. This is one that, like, these running backs, like, I'm not super interested in Davante Adams at that price in this type of game environment. But I think the running backs are at least somewhat interesting. Do you think that their touchdown viability is capped? Am I like overthinking this, Pete? Like, what are you doing with Aaron Jones right now?
Yeah, I haven't been playing Aaron Jones just because I think he's going to end up being one of the chalkiest running backs on the slate right after Mike Davis. And again, the other thing people are forgetting, I mean, Jamal Williams, when healthy, like, he has a big role in here. And again, when we talk about blowout games, Davante Adams can be the one that helps them blow them out. Aaron Jones can be those guys, but we're also trying to think in the second half, are they getting enough touches to be able to really blow out their salary and pay that off? So I'm a little more skeptical there. I will say on the James Robinson point, that is the case for the Jags covering. They slow this game down. They've shown a willingness to run their offense completely through James Robinson. I don't think it's out of the reason to think he gets 25 plus touches today. And so if they have some success on the ground, I think they could definitely keep it close.
The way you beat Green Bay is you punch him in the mouth. I mean, that defense is not physical whatsoever. If Jacksonville wants to set a physical tone early, and I'm not really sure what other tone they can set, so they might as well try that one. This could be a much more interesting game. I'm with you, Sharp Man. I'm going to take the 13.5 points. Let's see what gets weird on this one. I don't know about the total. I think I'm going to stay away from that one. I don't like totals in weather. It's just a bad formula. Here's a fun one. Jordan loves these. Producer Jordan loves quarterback rushing props. 8.5 for Mr. Aaron Rodgers. 8.5.
Over for sure. I mean, if this is a spot where you can't throw the ball, you would imagine there's going to be some sort of scrambling involved, right? I think that's pretty low for Aaron Rodgers. Pete?
Makes sense to me.
8.5. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's do it. Lock
All
it
right.
in.
Vindication.
Watch it. Watch it be 7. Okay. Buffalo Bills, Arizona Cardinals. Joe, first off, how excited are you for this game?
I can't wait to watch this game. It's funny because we're going to be live for like most of this game now for the tilt space. So it's going to be me and Leone definitely having letting our biases show, I guess, for the teams we really like for one of the first times together. It's going to be great.
Okay, so we've now reached the afternoon slate. So our night and air is over. The morning slate here in on the West Coast. I mean, what are we talking about here? Let's just go through that one more time. Jags at Packers, Bucks at Panthers, the football team at the Lions, the Eagles at the Giants, and the Texans at the Browns. Thanks, NFL. Really appreciate all of your good work here. Let's get into the good stuff. All right, Bills, Cardinals. The Cards are 2.5-point favorites. Kyler Murray getting that respect. 56.5-point total. Hot damn on blitzbet.eu. Who we playing, Pete?
This is one of those fire the cannons, all the guys type games. I mean, this game is popular for a reason. I think we're going to end up seeing the Josh Allen to Diggs stack being the most popular stack on the slate. I mean, Diggs has been so good at 7,500. I think he's still undervalued. The nice thing about this game is I think there are some ways to get unique because we don't have certainty on Kenyon Drake's availability. I think you can leave some late swap optionality for Chase Edmonds. I also think the secondary wide receivers, John Brown and Christian Kirk, are going to both be under 10%. They have palatable price tags and could be nice leverage on the chalkier options. So this is a game I'm not full fading this because of like ownership concerns. I want pieces of it. I think you just have to be a little mindful with the rest of your lineup if you are jamming the best plays here.
Joe.
Yeah, I mean, this is the game that everyone wants to talk about for points since the beginning of the week. And now that we have all these concerns in some of these other game environments, like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out how much how much Kyler Murray I can play.
I'm more of a Mo guy this week.
How much Kyler Murray can I play today? Yeah. No, I guess the big decision point, if you are running out these Kyler Murray stacks, is do you have the salary to get all the way up to Nuke Hopkins in these ones? Because I would imagine on the other side of it, you do probably want to go the Stephon Diggs route. So it's more of like a salary thing for me. Chase Edmonds is a pretty decent price point. I don't think I would play Chase Edmonds with Kyler together because this like number one role for Arizona hasn't really been that great from a pass catching perspective. So I think that would be like my one rule. I wouldn't play Chase Edmonds with Kyler. I guess, Pete, where do you sit on Nuke right now versus some of the other elite wide receivers?
Yeah, I think the thing about Kyler is you can skinny stack him. We've seen all the production be condensed in one way to Hopkins or Kirk. So I don't mind skinny stacking him. And I do prefer DeAndre Hopkins. I saw some stats floating around that he drew a ton of pass interference yards last week. And I think the week before that, he was a little banged up with the injury. So there's been a few things kind of suppressing his production. And I think if he had been coming off of one of his bigger games, I think he would be almost double the ownership in this spot. So I actually think you're getting a little bit of a discount. And if he comes in around 15%, I think he's a smash play in this game.
Y'all love Diggs for good reason. Anyone feeling John Brown? Anyone feeling anybody else on the Bills?
I like John Brown a bit. I think that I know that Peter and Leone were talking a little bit about Gabriel Davis because of his price on DraftKings. Do you think that the ownership difference between John Brown and Gabriel Davis is worth it if you just take price out of it, Pete?
I think what we've seen now from John Brown, there were health concerns a couple of weeks ago. Now that he's back to full health, we saw him have a really nice PPR day last week without getting in the end zone. I do think he's a cut above Gabriel Davis, but I also don't fault anyone. My thought is this, like, if you're not stacking up this game, I think Gabriel Davis makes like a good one-off play. In the same way, if I'm heavy on this game, I might entertain Josh Reynolds on the other. Because if you do play him and it goes off, it probably means the other guys and pieces of this game, like Josh Allen, are going off as well. So I would play him probably more as like a contrarian one-off in another lineup as opposed to with Josh Allen.
Are we at all concerned about the Bills, given that, Norman goes down? I don't know if that's that big of a deal with COVID. And then you also have Tyler Kroft, Levi Wallace, Dean Marlowe. I mean, these are all household names, but we're all sharps here. Is anyone concerned about the new members of the Bills COVID list maybe swinging this game from a betting perspective? Again, Arizona 2.5-point favorites.
I think it's about right. Both these teams, I think, are on the up and up. I think that there's going to be a ton of points overall. I'm not super worried about the Buffalo side, but I have a ton of biases here. I'm just going to hammer the Cardinals and not apologize for it.
Yep. Okay. So let's go to somebody who can see this one clearly. Peter?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. They're decimated in their secondary as well right now. I kind of prefer the Cardinals at home here. Josh Allen, we've seen him. He kind of gets that moniker as being a fast track bully, where when things are rolling in his favor, he's good to go. When he faces a little adversity, he can crumble here. So I kind of prefer the home team and the Cardinals taking care of business. And, I think Josh Allen's going to get there fantasy wise, whether it's rushing or whatever, big plays. But from a betting perspective, I want the Cardinals here.
33.5 rushing yards for Josh Allen. That's the prop. Who's taking the over?
That's an interesting one. I don't know if I have one side or the other. I want to say over, but I'm not really sure. Pete?
Yeah, I'm trying to see here what I always look at. Cardi has him projected for 30, so I guess I would take the under there.
Listen, they have not correctly spotted a ball in the NFL in years. We can find 3.5 yards easily. I'm telling you right now. Let's talk Chargers. Let's talk Tua's Miami Dolphins. I picked, by the way, the Cardinals and the Dolphins. I've been talking up the Dolphins for a while now in terms of the AFC East. I'm now in on the Cardinals winning the NFC West with 11 wins. Listen, man, just to appease you. You're the boss, and I got to make sure that I stay on your good side. But I'm feeling this afternoon slate because I get my two long shot division winners going pretty much at the same time against teams that are going to create interesting games. The Chargers can't play a lick of defense, but this Herbert fella, pretty good. They're always going to, the Phillip Rivers curse has extended. It's always going to go to the final possession of the game with the Chargers. And the Dolphins have this like fascinating no-name defense and Tua, who you don't know what the hell is going to happen. Miami 2.5-point favorites at home. Weather, not a concern in the least bit. I think it's going to be 80 degrees and humid, so it's Miami. The total in this one is 48.5. Let's start with you, Joe. Are you in on the Dolphins?
I think the Dolphins are kind of interesting here. I think one thing that I'm a little bit nervous about, and I've heard some people talking about Tua being like a contrarian option in DFS. Ooh. He's used his legs a little bit, which is interesting. I guess like let's look back even just like a couple weeks. Where did Tua really struggle? It was against this Rams team that brings a ton of pressure. This Chargers defense, it's the same thing. Probably a top 5 defensive line in the league. Miami's offensive line, probably bottom 5. So big mismatch there. So if you think that Tua didn't look very good under pressure against the Rams, that would be my concern against the Chargers as well. I think the Chargers side of the ball would be where I kind of have a little bit more interest. Devontae Parker, significantly underpriced on the Miami side. So I think that that's the stack direction I would go. Pete, do you disagree?
I'm okay. Like when I was looking, this is definitely a week to pay up for quarterback. Tua was the one guy that stood out for me if I were to go cheap. And I think he has a few things going for him. Devontae Parker is really affordable at 5,000. And I also think Gesicki is fine at his price tag. And it's just a really clean, cheap double stack. And then you can bring it back with Keenan Allen. And I think the one thing that could offset the offensive line mismatch that you talked about would just be this game pacing up. Pat Thorman identified this as a game that could really speed up. So that would be the thing that could mitigate the pressure. And the nice thing about Gesicki and Parker is I think he can get it out early to them if need be. So yeah, I'm going to have a little sprinkling of Tua today.
Not to be rude, but are we sure that this is a defensive line, offensive line mismatch? No one's disagreeing that the Dolphins offensive line is not great, but no Joey Bosa for the Chargers. I watched them last week against the Raiders. They couldn't do anything. You can't even pressure Derek Carr with 3 backup offensive linemen. I don't know if that's a good defensive line. I think that they're maybe riding on reputation a little bit here. And your analysis is spot on, Joe, except for the fact that I'm just not sure that the Chargers have a good defensive line. That's
fair. We need Pete's his inactive corner to let me know these things. I'm looking at some of the numbers. I'm not looking at every single type of thing like that. So it's a good call, Dieter. Attaboy.
Every now and again. How do 2.5? I don't know. I think I'm in on the Dolphins here at 2.5. I don't think the Chargers are very good. In fact, I think Anthony Lynn might not make it back to LA.
Is that 2.5? Is that what you said?
Oh my God.
Someone in the chat said I was being too serious. How about that for you, PayPal my money? A pun to in all puns.
I'm done with this game. We got to talk Broncos.
Works for me.
It's Tua and a hook. Thank you. Broncos and Raiders. Jesus Christ. 3.5 points for the Raiders at home. There won't be anybody there, but they'll be at home. 50.5 point total in, what are they calling it? The Death Star, which that doesn't make any damn sense. Like, why would you want to be the Death Star? The Death Star gets blown up. Whatever.
Once you see the COVID numbers in Vegas, I think they could call it the Death Star.
Oh my God. Yeah, how's that for serious?
Yeah,
we're making jokes about COVID. Nothing is sacred. All right, who likes the Raiders here? I don't know. Peter, do you like the Raiders here?
I do like the Raiders here. I think Locke is getting a little bit of a benefit of the doubt after his big week in garbage time last week. I still think he is a very turnover prone, erratic quarterback. And I think the Raiders could have a lot of success turning him over and then also controlling the game on the ground here. This game isn't going to catch a ton of ownership for DFS. Nope. Darren Waller will be one of the most popular tight ends on the slate. And that speaks more to there being no other good tight ends on this slate. He's the one, when you look at a ceiling projection, the only one even close to him is also in this game in Noah Fant. And then it truly is a wasteland after that. So this game, I think you can pick your spots here, but it's not a game where I'm going to load up because I think a lot of defense and a lot of running is going to go down here today.
Any long shot plays here, Joe? If you had to throw something up against the wall and see if it's stuck, you got anybody from this game?
I still feel like I'm on Drew Lock Island. Maybe it's because I didn't watch much of the game last week when he looked terrible. I guess the weeks he's just getting there at the end in like garbage time, basically. So I still think that his pass catchers are very intriguing. Jerry Jeudy has that shoulder injury that he's been battling through, but he is just 5,800, leaves like 300 air yards on the field. Last week, we still have KJ Hamler, who's extremely cheap at 3,800. And then Noah Fant, and I guess a gross tight end week overall. I think this Denver team is one that I'd be looking to from a late swap perspective, but probably won't start there.
I mean, listen, anytime you can go up against this Raiders defense, I think you have to at least consider them for a late swap. They can't stop anybody. They're terrible, and they don't have the pass rush. So, listen, I think that we all might be regretting not having a ton of Broncos in our lineups when this is all said and done. Now, that might also mean that the Raiders, we should have been playing Ruggs all along too, because it could be a shootout. But 50.5, I might take the over.
And I will say on that point, I think Jerry Jeudy is going to end up not getting rostered a ton just again because of all the great wide receiver plays. And he's been on the injury report all week with the shoulder. They say he's good to go. I was reading Gene Bramall said some risk of aggravation, but overnight reports remain reassuring. I mean, to Joe's point, I do think Jerry Jeudy would end up being a really good late swap option. I mean, 192 air yards in week 9 still ends up in the air yards by low model despite blowing up. I mean, just getting a ton of usage there. So I think that's a good thing to file away of this game as a late swap potential.
We got a bunch of tickets on the over according to producer Jordan, but I don't think that many people are betting it. And ultimately, if you want to bet on Derek Carr and Drew Lock to go off, I guess that's on you. I'm just saying on principle, it might be an over. I don't actually want to put my money there. Anyone want to take the Broncos getting the 3.5?
I don't.
Well, Broncos 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 road games, if you care about that. Raiders 2-7-1 against the spread in their last 10 games when they were favored by 3 points or more. So I'll take the Broncos.
Fish.
All right.
Pete's taking offense to these people in the chat saying he's serious. He just doesn't care about anything anymore.
Let's go to the most serious part of the show. It's Peter Overs. That's Inactive Corner. Which, by the way, we need a theme song.
We do.
Yeah.
It's in production.
Peter Overs. That's Inactive Corner.
Yeah, I need like Jordan coming out doing a sax solo for it.
Drop.
We gotta get Lamarca to do the sax solo.
Oh, so good.
Big saxy.
Honestly, there were no big inactives for the 1 p.m. With so many games in the 4 p.m. slate, that's where we have some of the really interesting ones with Kenyon Drake and those guys. TJ Hawkinson is good to go. He was one that there was kind of a little bit of uncertainty about. And yeah, I haven't seen anything else jump out today. Active running backs for Houston, they have Duke Johnson, CJ Prosise, and Buddy Howell, not to be confused with Buddy Holly. And yeah, I haven't seen anything. If anyone in the chat wants to let me know about a big inactive I missed, because I've just been goofing around so much on here, not doing my job, please let me know.
I just like saying CJ Prosise. What a cool name.
It is.
Every time I hear it, I'm just like, that's a really cool name. Got no other analysis other than that. Anybody that you already mentioned, Drake, anybody else that maybe we should keep an eye out for in the afternoon, like someone who's really on the edge? I don't know. You can say no. We can move on. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, all of those guys are expected to play. You know, Roethlisberger should be good. He had the illness and the knee stuff. He's fine. We mentioned Jerry Jeudy. I don't think there's any other. You know, Kenyon Drake is the big one. If he happens to test it out and isn't going, like, leave some room to late swap to Chase Edmonds because he's a smash play and will come in at low ownership.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Ben Roethlisberger, you just look at the guy and you imagine that he's on the injury report. He doesn't look healthy. So let's just call it what it is. All right. I have to watch this game, and I'm sad about it because the 49ers are not covering 9.5 points at New Orleans. They're not doing it. Nick Mullins is bad. He's a bad quarterback. Now, maybe they can backdoor it, but that's really the only route. Total on this one is 49.5. Poetic, perhaps. Who wants to talk me out of my Niners position? Who actually, how about this? Just tell me who you're playing on the Saints. There's no stack situations. There's no, come back. Like, who are you playing on the Saints? Because you should get some points.
I think Michael Thomas is one of the best plays on the slate at 7,400. I think he's flying a little bit under the radar with that weird game they had against the Bucs. He returned to a 55% snap share. But as Dieter knows, the 49ers have given up double-digit reception totals to Hopkins, to Metcalf, to Adams. Michael Thomas fits that role. Man, if we're getting him under 15% ownership today, just an absolute slam dunk.
Love it. Yeah, Michael Thomas, I think, is just super underpriced. He mentioned about everything I was going to say. Just a little bit of flop lag there, just after having a 5 for 51 and 0 line last week in prime time. So that's interesting. I guess from a betting perspective, overall, Dieter, your 49ers, man, in the past 10 games where they've been an underdog of 6 or more points, 0-10 straight up, 2-8 against the spread. I guess think it comes down to, like, this pass rush is just not the same without Nick Bosa. We saw what
it's historically bad. It's a historically bad pass rush. And last year they were
going to sit back there and pick them apart. So I guess the argument against Michael Thomas is that Breeze is going to sit back there and he's just going to throw the open guy the entire game. So that's a slight concern for Michael Thomas. I like the idea of Kamara if he's going to be half the ownership of Aaron Jones. If everyone just wants to hammer Aaron Jones in the early, and maybe that game just turns into kind of a slogfest and just not a lot of points are scored overall. I don't know. Maybe Kamara. If he am I accurate there ownership wise, Pete? Do you think he's like half the ownership of Jones?
I think that's exactly about what it is. About 15% to Jones's 30%.
Come on.
I'm interested in that.
Come on. I would be extremely interested.
No one wants to play Kamara. There's all those narratives of, like, he's not going to get the receiving work with Thomas, which might be true, but, like, these guys have been, like, coexisting in this offense for years and been totally fine. The ceiling's still there.
Yeah.
All right, Dieter, I'm going to throw it back to you. This is a question I legitimately have. The tight end Jordan Reed whispered, does he see a snap uptick after getting eased back last week?
They don't have much of a choice now, do they? Because Ross Dwelly, who is the other backup, sucks. He's really bad. Like, there are times that I watch, and I really don't like doing this because I've covered, a lot of professional sports at very high levels for a long time at very, close range, and understand that these guys are not human. But sometimes I watch Ross Dwelly and think, I'm 6'8" and 275 pounds. I can do that. Like, I could do that, man. He can't block. He's a nice receiver, but he's a slow white guy as a receiver. Like, I'm not sure how you play him a bunch of snaps. So yeah, Jordan Reed's going to get an uptick. If they're going to score, it's going to be Jordan Reed, but he won't get 2. No, sir. He will not get 2 touchdowns in this game.
I should also mention just one other play I like in this game. I like Brandon Ayuk at 5,700.
Yeah.
I think he, again, is going to be in this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dieter.
You better like him. He's the only guy on the outside who can absolutely.
Did you watch the game last week? Richie James just went nuclear. No one's going to play him now? Seems bad.
What can you get Richie James at?
4,000 min.
He's very cheap.
Well, near min.
I don't know. Is McKinnon a thing? Can someone tell me about this running game too? Someone was trying to talk me into McKinnon, but I don't know if I can get there. Pete, you're a resident thin running back play type of person. So what, can I play this guy?
Savage. So again, the reason I actually have been looking into him and why I asked about Jordan Reed is because I'm playing Michael Thomas in a lot of lineups. I want to figure out, am I going to play Reed with him? Am I going to play Ayuk, play McKinnon? I do think McKinnon's viable. He's going to catch no ownership. Dieter's the one covering the team. They said they want to get him more involved. If we project New Orleans leading in the dome and them having to play catch up, that doesn't feel like a JaMychal Hasty game to me. That feels like a Jerick McKinnon game. So I like the McKinnon call if we see this game really go over the total.
But do you have to? Because you don't have to. I would go with the Ayuk one, because if nothing else, they're going to have gadget plays for Ayuk. They have to make him a key part of the offense. I know that Richie James went off. A lot of that was empty because that game was garbage, the entirety of it. McKinnon's going to get some work. He's the third down back, right? So and yet they'll use him on the first couple series. It's Kyle Shanahan. I just wouldn't bet on anything Niners in this game. I think the Saints defense is markedly better than San Francisco's offense. And I guess if you had to play something, it'd be Ayuk. 3.5 receptions is the prop on McKinnon. I'd probably take the over on that one, but it's a very well set line. I don't know.
Yeah,
this team is depressing. Every game they play is depressing to watch.
It's basically right where I have him projected at. He's just so cheap. It makes like a reasonable bring back on like mini stacks with Michael Thomas or mini stacks with Kamara. That's the only thought process there.
And you mentioned, Joe, earlier, like, oh, well, Drew Brees is just going to sit back there and have all the time to pick dudes out. Like, so he'll take 2 seconds instead of a second and a half to throw the ball this time. Like, he's going to be peppering them for 7-yard slants all day. The slant god, Michael Thomas, is going to have a field day too, because no Richard Sherman, no K'Wan Williams, the nickel corner. So just have at it.
That was such an upgrade on his nickname. You know, the pejorative has been Slant Boy, and you're just elevating him to Slant God. I think he'll take that.
He's the Slant God. He runs one damn route, and he does it really well. He is Slant Boy, to be fair. I mean, I have an affinity for slants. What am I to say? Let's talk Seahawks. Let's talk Rams. Rams are 2.5-point favorites at home in the Dome. 54.5-point total. Are we going to start fading the Seahawks? Is this the time? Are we out on Seattle? I mean, the Rams have always played them well. They really have. They've always had their number. I don't know. This might be the week. I might be out on the Rams, who are favored against Seattle. Let's go with you, Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely next to the Cardinals and Bills game, this is the game that you want to figure out ways to back into for sure. In terms of points being scored, the Seattle defense is going to give it up. I'm not a big Jared Goff person overall, but there's value in knowing where he's going to go with the ball. Cooper Kupp, originally this week, I thought that maybe he was going to be significantly higher owned than Robert Woods. It's kind of, they've narrowed the gap a little bit. So in a vacuum, I prefer Kupp. There's some cheap options with Josh Reynolds on the LA side of it. So yeah, there's some pieces here. Pete's going to tell us to play DK Metcalf though, right?
You know, it's so interesting because I thought at the beginning of the week, I was like, no one's going to play DK Metcalf again. They're scared of Jalen Ramsey.
Move the needle, Pete. Now everyone's saying it.
Well, no, there's a couple other things moving the needle. One, people are so done with Tyler Lockett begging them. You know, they chasing that monster game and he hasn't done anything the past few weeks. They feel burned. There also was the report that came out that Ramsey wasn't going to shadow Metcalf, that he's going to be moving all around. So I think the sentiment is now catching up. And I actually think we see their ownership more similar this week for the first time this season. So I still love Metcalf, but you're not getting as much leverage as you normally would. And this is a great game to target. I think the tough thing for me is we know McVay and the Rams like to play very game script dependent. Like if they can have their way, they'll run Darrell Henderson. Like they do not care. So the ways that Goff gets there is if Seattle gets up big early and then they're just forced to throw the whole game. In those scenarios, I kind of prefer the Seahawks side in a shootout. And so that's why I'm kind of leaning when I start building these Goff teams. I'm like, I'd rather just have the Seattle guys instead. But to your point, I think there's like 2 to 3 really nice cheap plays in this game. I think both the punt tight ends, Gerald Everett and Jacob Hollister, are viable. I think Josh Reynolds is one of the better punt play wide receivers. So this is a game that's actually pretty easy to stack up.
With the Rams offense, you're totally right, Peter. Like they definitely want to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. They have not gotten over Todd Gurley at his peak. Like they're just trying to recreate him in the aggregate every week. But the way that they throw the ball, which is, a lot of in routes and stuff like that, kind of that intermediary game, that's exactly where Seattle's weak. Like they could just have a field day. So I wouldn't be surprised if McVay just decides, like, you know what, we're going to break the script a little bit this week and we're just going to destroy him in the passing game. That would be a smart thing to do. We'll see if McVay does it. 6.5 receptions for Cooper Kupp. Joe, since it seems like you're in on him, I imagine you are expecting an over on that prop.
I just had 20 targets, man.
I didn't set the line.
I'm just saying, I love Cooper Kupp. I've been wanting to play him all week. I'm trying to figure out how to not overthink it right now. I think 6 receptions is too low, though.
Yeah, 6.5. Peter, you wanna just be a contrarian here?
No, I'll take the over on that. Kupp was one of those guys at the beginning of the week. I thought this is the guy everyone's going to gravitate to. His ownership's going to get steamed up. He's in the air yards by low model. He's in a great matchup. This is a pace up game. He's going to be the chalky guy. It ended up being Diggs. Cooper Kupp's going to be hovering here around 15% ownership. I think he's a great play, and I think Robert Woods is a great play too. So, but I do prefer Kupp of the two.
Did you kind of mentioned it here, Peter? Anyone have any appetite for playing Jared Goff as your quarterback this week?
I just don't think it's necessary. I think there's ways, like if we love like the quarterback in just terms of this, like both quarterbacks in this game, Russell Wilson, the correlation between quarterback and opposing quarterback, very high, all that stuff. I just never played Jared Goff because you're not going to get any rushing. Is that overthinking? I saw you and Leone had a Goff team in our chat earlier, Pete. So are you guys considering it at least?
Yeah, I think the fact that he's in this weird price range where he's not like the Jimmy Garoppolo price a few weeks ago where he was so cheap and everyone's like, oh, he's going to get Seattle, let's jam it. So I do think he's going to go underlooked, and he's so easy to stack. Pick one of Kupp and Woods, you throw in Reynolds or Everett, and then you bring it back with one of Metcalf or Wilson, or Lockett. So it's just really easy, and I don't think it's going to catch a ton of ownership. So I am open to it because it's one of those things. This is one of the trippy ones where we have this happen in the week. Like we built one on the Swolecast on Wednesday. We're like, this is going to be the chalk double stack of the week. Mm-hmm. And then here we are on Sunday morning, and I don't see it getting steamed up like that. And this is why DFS can be so much of, a mind mess here where now I'm like, wait, is this still just the best stack and it's going under owned? And so I am leaning toward coming back to Goff here.
Anyone feel any sort of way about 2.5 points for the Rams? Anyone want to take Seattle in this one?
I don't know, man. That's tough. Like, do we just? I hate these like BVP type of matchup versus matchup things, but say what you want. Like the Rams have dominated the Seahawks over the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I will say we got people in the chat too talking about having a backup center. You have Aaron Donald. If you are fading this game for DFS, I do think the Rams are a viable pump play on DraftKings at 2,200. I think that's a good way. If you're saying, hey, this game isn't doing what people think it is, play the Rams. That's direct leverage on the rest of that ownership.
And we know the Rams are susceptible up the middle. Now you got the backup center, so that should be peculiar. Then again, I thought that a couple of weeks ago when the Rams played the 49ers and Daniel Brunskill stoned Aaron Donald for 4 straight quarters. So, crazier things have happened. Let's talk about a game that's not as exciting as that last one, but still pretty good. Honestly, Joe Burrow makes things interesting. Bengals at Steelers. Steelers are nearly a touchdown favorite, 6.5 points at home, 46.5 point total. As we found out from our good friend Peter Overs, that Big Ben looks like he's going to play. So are we playing anybody that goes around Big Ben? Do we have any Steelers in our lineups this week? Joe?
I like Chase Claypool a lot. I'm a sucker for these like red zone packages where they just find ways to get it into his hands. It's always like kind of my argument against like James Conner because he just get vultured at the goal line, but by all these weird type of plays they do with Claypool. And it looks like he's going to go under owned again. Like just the ceiling from this guy in particular is just so high. So I like Claypool a lot if he ends up being low owned. This feels like the late swap game. If it was perfect weather, it's not. It's one of those ones that we're focused on for sure. 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. Gusts can be up to about 50. So I'm kind of scared off of the Burrow side, though I did like the Burrow prices and some of these Cincy guys early in the week. Kind of an avoid overall in this game.
What do you got, Pete?
Yeah, I think the weather stuff has made me less excited about this from a leverage standpoint, because was going to be one of the better, late swap pivot games if your early stuff didn't pop off. But now we're seeing the 20 to 30 sustained winds with the 50-mile-per-hour gusts, and that really makes it tough. I do think you can play, in your late swap scenarios, a Deontay Johnson or like Joe mentioned, Claypool, just because they're going to get manufactured touches in a way that doesn't rely solely on the deep ball. I also think, I don't think Gio Bernard is much different of a play than Duke Johnson. He's 400 more, but he's going to come with a fraction of the ownership. And I think they're virtually the same play. So if you are looking for a few leverage spots like that, I don't mind it, but I just don't think you have to go here in this game. Like, I think I'd rather late swap to that Tua Herbert game with no weather concerns and similar low ownership. So I don't think you have to force it here.
Anyone want to take Cincinnati to cover 6.5?
Well, one thing that you can always say about the Steelers is that they never really cover these large point spreads, right? They play down to their opponent. I know you're teeing me up for that, but that's literally, like, I think it's definitely a narrative at this point. So they've been favored. So in the past 7 games, they've been favored by 9 or more points. Steelers 0-7 against the spread, 6-1 straight up though. So they might win the game. I'm just not convinced that they're going to cover the spread.
There's no better analysis than that. So, Peter, we're going to skip you and we're going to go straight to best bet, best play. Let's go with you, Peter. What's your best bet of the main slate? What's your favorite play on the main slate?
Let's see here. Let's go with my best bet. The Sharps are all taking the Jags plus 13.5. James Robinson rushes it 30 times. They slow the game down and they cover. Caveat: I do not get in the weeds on these bets, and I don't have my own hard-earned money on that bet. So take that what you
Coward.
will. Coward. I will say best play is Michael Thomas at 7,400 at
Slant God.
Slant God is going to do it. I saw Derek Carty tweeting, who's the guy you wish you would have played tomorrow morning at his price? I think it is Michael Thomas, like he said.
Same question to you, Joe Holka. Best play, best
game, man. Kyler Murray, Cardinals -3.
All right. What do you got as your best play?
Suck it, Leone.
Who's the guy you need in your lineup?
Best DFS play. I like the Michael Thomas call a lot, but I'm actually like warming up a little bit to Alvin Kamara too. So we might be on the other side of that one. I think that people that just want to jam in Aaron Jones and assume that there's like 3 touchdown game is coming, you're not taking into consideration how gross this game could be and how limited amount of touchdowns could be scored overall. So I like Kamara at half the ownership, a little bit more expensive, but I think pay up to be contrarian there could work out.
Consider the grossness and consider the Miami Dolphins -2.5 against the Chargers. I just don't think the Chargers are very good, and I'm all in on the Dolphins. What time is Tilt Space happening tonight?
5:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going live an hour early. The people want more Tilt Space. We will give you more Tilt Space today.
Get your sweat on. Joe Holka is always streaming on his channel and this one. Peter Overs at After Tilt Space. Where can they find you?
They can find me on my YouTubes, on the Twitters, just being super serious, talking football, getting my hand in the dirt, wide receiver, cornerback matchups. It's what I do, Joe.
Tough scene, man. Tough scene. That's the first time I've ever heard you mention your own YouTube, man. You've come a long way.
Look at this shameless promoter.
Guy gets 2K subs, and all of a sudden he's willing to hammer his own notification bell. We're going to the moon, baby.
Hey Peter, where could they find you at YouTube? What's the name of your channel? Is it like the Showdown Thought Leader, the Hard Hat Wearer? Is there a URL we could give the fans here?
YouTube.com/Mr. Serious FF Guy.
All right, that's it.
It's in the title, people.
Good luck, everybody.